Wolfpack Nation. By the fourth block or box here on this video, you can see we have an awesome special guest for you guys today. It's none other than, I think we can call him at this point, NC State legend, EMEKA EMEZIE, joining the pod. EMEKA, we appreciate you greatly. I know Wolfpack Nation appreciates you greatly, but thanks for coming on with us, man.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, no, it's our pleasure. We this is one that we kind of had marked here for the last week or so as we were trying to get you on, and man, I'm really really excited about it. Um so let's just jump in.
Mm,
You just you finished up at state this past off season with a bang, and we'll
mhm.
definitely talk about that as we get into this, but let's just start from the beginning. I know when you came into state, I think it was 2017 was your first year. Is
Yeah,
that right? Yeah.
yeah.
You had a bunch of offers from different Power Five groups. A couple from the Big 12. You had one from the SEC, and then a bunch from the ACC. With that being state, and if my memory serves me, I think they were like the last one to offer you. According to like the timelines that I saw. Is that true?
Yeah, I think probably either last or, like, second to last. 'Cause I got a couple late ones, like, my senior year, but I think they're probably one of, like, my later ones, yeah.
Got you. So I guess just talk to that process. You're a North Carolina native, so obviously, you're very familiar with NC State and their football program. But just kind of just walk us through, how you got the offer, what led you to state, just your whole recruitment process in general.
Yeah, I knew I wanted to stay in state, I think, probably when I got, like, a little bit older towards, like, junior and, senior year, and, I was just kinda weighing out my options between Wake and, Duke and, um, State. And because Chapel Hill never offered, so I was kind of like weighing it back and forth. And I had really wanted to go to Chapel Hill at first, but thank God they didn't offer me. So, you know,
Yeah.
um, and then just kind of talking with my parents and ended up deciding that state was the best fit. And I was very thankful that happened.
Yeah, when
So,
I was looking at your 247 profile preparing for this pod, I saw a lot of that blue. You were all in on them going to their camps and you and obviously you said you didn't commit there. But one thing that I did kind of caught my eye on the 247 timeline was, did you actually decommit from state at one
I
point?
did. I
Yeah,
did.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so just talk about that. Was it just because you just wanted to make sure that that was the choice, or there was something that maybe happened, or
Yeah, I felt like, you're just so young. I was like 17, 18, so I didn't really like understand the I didn't understand everything, if that makes sense. I kind of
Yeah.
was just
sure?
trying to get caught up in like a lot of different things. It just didn't matter at the point. And once you get down to like football, I think once I just started like maturing throughout like my senior season, I was able to just kind of clear my head. I was like, all right, like this is where I need to be, if that makes sense.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. I mean, it's a life-changing decision. I mean, it's
Mm,
not even, potentially for your, it is for your professional career, whether that's, in football or your business life. It's a big
Yeah.
daunting thing, and it's culture too. I mean, you're going from high school where, it's a different mindset and mentality to like, I mean, let's be real, college is not professional, but it darn near is with as
it
much training
basically
and time
is,
you
yeah.
spend. Yeah. But yeah, so once you got on campus, just kind of talk about your freshman year. I know you appeared in, I think it was 9 games your
Mm.
freshman year. But just kind of just walk us through, the change and from playing high school ball into college.
Yeah, that transition is very tough. I think one of the tougher things is how hot it is, like, and the time that we practice, and then on top
Mhm.
of that, like having all the pads. I don't know, it's just like felt like it was hotter in college. I don't know for whatever reason. You have all these pads on and stuff. But I think the consistencies of practices and the intensity, like the consistent
Yeah.
intensity of practices, as hot as it is like really like something you got to adjust as like a freshman because you don't practice hard at all in high school. Like you
Right.
practice maybe like 50%, and coming into college it's a game like basically every single day. And I think just getting your body adjusted to that, which I kind of started to understand. If I really wanted to play my first year, I was like, I have to take
Mhm.
this very seriously. I can't, go around that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once you go ahead, Michael, you got something?
Well, I was just gonna say we talked to Mike Glenn a few weeks ago, and he was kind of saying something similar, that the actual difference in level of like football and intensity was bigger for him from high school to college than from college to the NFL. The biggest difference
Mm,
for him for college to the NFL was the business aspect, but as far as like strictly football wise, the jump from high school to college was harder for him.
right.
Yeah, I just think it's more of a grind.
Hmm.
Typically high school you're only playing like maybe 10, 11 games. And then, you get the extra 1 to 2 games. Now granted if you make states and there's some games there, in the playoffs, but I just think the overall intensity, like kind of to your point, Emeka, is it's just ramped up, 3,
Exactly.
4 fold. But when you got to state and how was the adjustment for you for, like, the training being in Coach Thunder's program? Because, I mean, I'm sure that in itself was a culture shock from, the way you
Yeah.
trained in high school to college.
I think, yeah, like there was so many culture shocks for me personally because I grew up in Waxhaw Marvin. So having the dynamic of the team that I had, the demographic that we had, and then coming to state where you see guys like Pratt and Bradley Chubb and you see Kelvin, it's
Hmm.
like, our linebackers used to be like 5'6", and now I have this like 6'3" freak of like Jermaine Pratt coming at me. It's like getting adjusted to that and understanding like the culture of the team was like a shock in itself. And then, like you said, the training aspect of it is just so intense. Everything is so detailed with Coach Thunder, which is why that like makes him great because he's so detailed and disciplined about everything. And I think as you like adjust and if you just like listen to him and do what he says and kind of like get on that path, like there's only like right or wrong. I think once
Right.
I was able to get on that path, okay, I'm gonna be disciplined, I'm gonna be detailed, I'm gonna show up 10 minutes early. Then everything gets easier for you once you make that adjustment.
Yeah, I think you just brought up a good point. Everything is detailed and outlined for you, right? Like
Mm,
it's like it's so I was in the military for 10 years. So they basically tell you where to be, when to be there. To your point, you're not there if you're on time, you're late, everyone's heard that saying. But the
exactly.
same thing, right? It's very regimented and structured. And then by the way, you still have to go to class. Like I
Yeah.
mean, like it's not just about playing ball. So I'm sure that was a big thing. But just talking about your freshman year a little bit,
Mm,
um, what was, I guess, your most memorable moment? Like, was it your first catch going running through the tunnel for the first time at Carter-Finley? Like, what's the one
yeah.
thing that really stands out to you in that freshman year?
Um, I think obviously that Wake Forest game, it was a blessing for me.
I didn't
I
want to
think
bring that up.
no, it's all right.
No,
I'm
no.
not gonna like, I'm like thinking about it the other day. I was 18 when I played that game, which is like
Yeah.
insane. And I'm just thinking about it, like that game's very memorable 'cause I scored my first touchdown that game too.
You did.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I was
And you scored your
uh
second, by the way.
yeah. I thought I was about to get it, and like in your
Yeah.
head too, while I'm going in, I make a great move. I'm like about to score, like I'm about to like win this game. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
let's go.
Hmm.
I'm literally thinking that in my head as we're like about to score, and then whatever happens, like I think, yeah, it was just that was very memorable because like Raleigh, that's just like a huge like part of Raleigh for me because I had to become a man after that, like, and
You
Hmm.
did.
that's why I love Raleigh so much is because from 18 to 22, I learned how to become a man, and that's like, I think that probably that game because there was so many emotions in that game. That's probably like my most memorable moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one thing that I remember about that game, I mean, I remember that game vividly. I wasn't out there, but I
Mhm.
just remember watching it, and I remember your tweet after the game, and
Mm.
I don't remember the exact words, but I remember you came out with a tweet, and obviously, state fans are very loyal and very passionate, some to a fault. But I thought most of what I saw, at least on Twitter, I mean, DMs are a whole different thing. Obviously, we're not privy to that, but I thought you got a lot of love and support.
Yeah,
And then the one thing for me that you didn't let that define you, that, like you rose above that, and that just made you a better player, if you ask me. I thought,
right.
and then just walk us through, like was it a little rough, or like like
For which part?
like just the some of the responses you got, I guess, like.
Oh, I think it was so many emotions. The thing, like I remember that next day. So like it's like a dream playing college ball, and that was like my first game really playing.
Mhm.
And I remember like Randy Moss had put me on You Got Moss and like seeing that the next day on like TV and all that stuff when I made my touchdown catch. And like
Mhm.
I felt like I couldn't be too down on myself because I was trying to make a play. Like I wasn't like it wasn't
Right.
like I was carrying the ball crazy and like, just
You
acting a
weren't
fool.
showboating or any of
Yeah, no,
that.
Yeah,
nothing
Yeah.
yeah,
crazy like that. But I was just
Yeah.
trying to make a play, and the guy like had a good effort play, and none of the responses really crazy. Only thing I remember is somebody had like Venmoed me because I guess their like bet had like their bet had hit because we lost or whatever. So that was only like crazy thing. He like
That's actually a pretty
Venmo.
funny story.
Yeah, I've never told anybody that. He like Venmoed me like $50 or something like that. I don't know. It's funny, but
Oh man.
That's that's pretty funny. Um, so so let's just because I mean I've got so many questions and so many thoughts, but let's talk about the receiver room. We talked a little bit about before we
Yeah.
came on with you. Just talk about the receivers that you had the I guess privilege honor to play
Mm.
with. You've played with some great wide receivers with Kelvin Harmon and Jacoby, Thayer. You had Devin Carter last year. I mean, I'm gonna stop there. I'm gonna leave someone out, but just talk about the type of that room and that we talked about too is we as fans have been spoiled at that position for the last forever. Let's be real. I mean, we've had some great players come through, but in the last 7 to 10 years, including your time. But just talk about that a little bit.
I think it starts with the coach though. It started with Coach McDonald, and I'm so thankful for him. At the time, it's like it was so rough. It was such like a tough like thing to do playing for him at the time. But like now I look back, I think him like probably more than anybody I've met in that room, just because that's the person you spend the most time with as like
Mhm.
when you're in college as your position coach, and he taught me more about life than I think a lot of people have, and that's what I'm
Mhm.
very thankful for from him. But that room too was so competitive, and I think it started with Kelvin and Steph. They were just so competitive with each other, and I just wanted to get in on that. Like I was like I have to play. Like I have to after that first year too. I was like I have to play the second year. Like I have to find a way to start. And that was like my goal was just to find a way to start. And Coach McDonald just always said like the hardest thing for a man to do is be consistent. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna be consistent every day. I'm gonna work. I'm gonna have a certain routine I'm gonna do every single day, regardless if you have a great practice, bad practice, or whatnot. And that kind of led for me to have that year, my 2018 year. And yeah, I just loved the guys that were in there. It was so competitive, but we all like cheered for each other. Jacoby having that 1,000-yard season, and then Kelvin had that 1,000-yard season as well, and both of them being first team All ACC.
Yeah.
Like that was so much fun being the third receiver that year because I was just trying to. It was no pressure being the third receiver. I
Yeah.
would get a few looks by Ryan sometimes in the game. If I started getting hot, you just keep feeding me. But like
Yeah.
those guys usually took on the workload, and I was kind of like, all right, if we need another play here, like you can get on the ball. It was like a different role than I had these past couple of years. So
Yeah.
Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need. Offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out.
Emeka, you just brought up the point of culture and like how the upperclassmen kind of set the example. And of course, when you got to that position and a few years later, you were the one kind of mentoring the younger receivers in your room. Um, and culture is a big thing in a program. Can you just talk a little bit about Coach Doran and the culture that he kind of just sets the tone for the rest of the program?
yeah, I think that's a great job by Coach Doran, like you said, having his like rules and set and his culture set, and then I think Coach Thunder having his culture set as well. Just everything being on brand and everybody's kind of on brand, and having that standard for everybody. It just lets you like set the tone. If that makes sense. Like it's
Yeah.
something we stand by. If you don't have anything you stand by, then it's just gonna be tough to, especially play college football. All these guys just running around doing all these different kind of things. But when you do have rules in place, you at least do have a standard. Then you kind of have something that you have your like backbone on, which was something that was just great about state. Even though it was tough at times, it's like now I kind of see why we had it, because it just made us who we were. That makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I worked for a colonel. She always would tell me my audio has to match the video, and I think that's just a really great way of saying it. It's you can talk the talk, but you better walk the walk. So if one is out of sync, they're not going to make any sense, and it's just a bad look. So I think that's really important that the tone is set from the top, and then people just kind of feed off of that. But
Exactly.
so just talking about your sophomore year, you know, y- that was obviously your breakout year. Your first year you had 13 receptions, and your next year you had 53. So a big jump for you. And you did take on, like you were kind of saying, you were taking on a little bit more of a role in there. What's the one thing I guess would stand out in your sophomore year? That was a really good team there that year.
You say something that stand out for me, or something stood out for like the team?
Either one or both, whatever, however
Yeah,
you
we'll
want to
just
take
do
that.
both. For me, I think was just I I felt like I was just so loose that year. I was enjoying like college, enjoying my life, enjoying everything that came. Because I wasn't the number one, so like
Right.
I was a sophomore too, and I like met my goal of starting. Like my goal that year was like to start. Like I there was nothing else that was gonna stop me from starting. So I was like, I had did that, and then I was like, I I remember I was just so competitive, and like I hadn't scored the first two games. And I was like, I need to score. Like, I remember like getting off the like field like versus Georgia State that second game. I was like almost in tears, because I had like I just wanted to do good and like prove to myself and prove to like everybody I was like good. And I ended up scoring that game versus Marshall the next game. Then that next game after that, I had the Virginia game, which I don't know, like I was in the zone, like that game, I was just in the zone. I don't know what happened, but everything they were throwing at me was just being caught. That first half, I remember like very vividly, and I just made a couple of crazy catches, and I was like, okay, this is like who I want to be. And I feel like that year just for me stood out, was just like being like free and just kind of like flowing and just not really like having any stress. And then for the team, I just felt like it was a fun year. Yeah, it was just a fun year for the team. Like we just went out to we were like 5-0 at one point. We played at
Yep.
Clemson. We were
Yep.
like 14th ranked, and I don't remember what they were exactly, but it was just a fun year. I felt like I just was able to like really enjoy football and college ball, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Um, for me, like the one thing that for me that stands out about your time at state was just the reliability, if you will. We especially your senior and super senior year, if you needed to play, you knew where the ball was going. It was
Mm.
going to that number back there, number 86.
Yeah.
And with that being said, your time, you're top 5 in a lot of receiving categories, and number 1 in, is it yards?
Receptions.
Receptions, that's what it is, receptions,
Mhm.
thanks. Just is there a particular number? I mean, you had, 229 catches for almost 2,900 yards in your time at state. Is there a number or a stat that really kinda just pops at you, go like, "Wow, I can't believe I accomplished that?"
Um, the 14 catches versus Clemson is something that's always gonna
Yep.
have a great place in my heart, just
Mhm.
because the amount of every time I like see that game, every time I think about that game, I get a little bit emotional, just because of how much that meant for the students, how much that meant for our staff, how much that meant for the fans, how much that meant for like us. And I just remember that like week, if we can talk about that for a little bit, like I just
Yeah. Sure.
I like remember just like talking with Thayer, and I just remember like vividly with Thayer, I was like, we're gonna win. Like there's no if and buts about it. If anybody was telling me anything negative that week, I was like, y'all don't even come my way. I'm Mr. Positive this week. Like we are going to win. It's gonna happen. I don't want to hear anything else. And I just remember that 3:30 game. Like we don't get those a lot in the Carter, and that
That's right.
energy. I remember coming out to like seeing the stands, and coming back from halftime, the stands are still like filled out. Like that energy, and then the whole game, everybody's there. And I remember vividly like just that OT, and just looking at the carter-finley, and looking at like where we like lift weights and stuff like that. I'm just like, thinking to ourselves like we're really about to do this, and
Hmm.
it was an electric moment, and that number kind of sticks out for me because I love that game so much. Like that 3:30 game and everything about
Yeah.
like that game was just so much fun to me.
Yeah, let's stay on that game a little bit, and I mean, I'll talk about some personal experiences for me on that game. I have a buddy who lives out in Oregon. He works for a company that's not Adidas, so we'll let you figure that out. But he flew his whole family out, and I had him at my tailgate. I had 55 people at my tailgate for that game. I mean, it was
Wow.
just, I mean, everyone, I mean, so just taking it from a fan perspective, like we were jacked, ready to go at 9, 10 o'clock when we get out to the parking lot. Like we were
Right.
behind, like we don't have those conversations like you guys do in the weight rooms or on the practice field, but at the tailgate, we're like, today's our day.
Right.
There was nothing that was
We
going to stop
y'all
us.
tailgate. Me and Hannah get the student gate right when the gates open. We're just sitting on the asphalt waiting for the water chant. We're sitting there for a good 5 hours before the gates even open.
Right.
So we were ready.
Yeah,
We were extremely ready for that game.
it was just a different it was just a different buzz in the air, if you will. And that game, and we'll talk about this from your perspective. And I have some more stories here about that game.
Mm,
Like, you know, Chris misses that field goal, and everyone's like, "Oh, here we go again with Clemson and the field goal," and everyone was like, "No, we got you, bro. Like this game is different. Like nothing changed. You guys didn't waver one bit at all."
mhm. Yeah, and that's what it goes to. Like I said before, that's that positivity. If you want
Hmm.
positivity, our leaders are such great leaders. Grant and Isaiah are such great leaders because they just feed positivity. There's no negativity. And like I feel like that week, especially if you want to beat a team like that, there can't be any negativity. You can't be one guy's here. Like the whole team has to be there. Even it's the stands, the fans, everybody has to be there. Like it doesn't matter what happens.
That's right.
So when he did miss the kick, I remember like looking up in the Murphy, just looking at the missing that kick. I'm like, all right, like we're good. Like we got your back. And Chris is the best kicker at NC State has ever had. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it's just gonna happen. Like you're gonna mess up, and we have to have your back, and which we did. And Thayer makes a touchdown catch in OT, and then Devin Carter makes an insane play,
Unbelievable
insane
catch.
play.
And
So
insane. And then the defense holds up their end of the bargain, right? So again,
exactly.
it's a complete team effort. So let's talk about what happened after that.
Mm,
Everyone rushes the field. And
yeah.
what and I know you have no idea that this happened, but you and I actually have a picture on the field after that game. And that's like
That's
one of
awesome.
and I have it, and I was
He
like,
said, "I know you don't know this happened."
yeah, because I
No.
mean, how many pictures you take? Probably a
Yeah.
thousand. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's insane. Yeah.
yeah, but just talk to me about like because that was like obviously before Carolina, and we'll definitely talk about that moment. But like that was your first moment of our fans rushing the field. Just
Mm.
talk about that feeling with seeing all that red just collapse from the stands onto the field.
Yeah, it was crazy because I'm like I look at the ball, it's incomplete. I'm like, okay, we did this. Like, I'm trying to run towards the fans. I was about to like jump into I don't know what I was about to do. I was just about to like, I don't know, celebrate with everybody. But then I see them start running at me. So I'm like, oh, like this is not like y'all are coming out to the field. Like this is actually happening. And I didn't expect, I don't know, I just wasn't thinking like they were gonna rush it. I don't know. I just wasn't even like
What?
and when I started like, yeah, exactly. When I like started like running that way, they're running at me. I'm like, oh, like they're like we're all doing this. And
They're friendly. They're friendly.
I don't really remember what happened. I guess I started running and I kind of stopped and I don't know, we just all were just grabbing each other. We were just all so excited. It was such a fun time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I talked, before we, got started with the pod, like, again, I didn't go to state, I joined the military right out of high school. And so I never had a quote unquote college moment. And my 60-year-old dad was standing next to me and, and we looked at each other and we're like, we got to go. And then, so my dad jumped on the field and, I mean,
Wow.
60-year-old man jumping on the field.
And those walls are not
Off
short.
the
Especially
walls.
the Carter's walls
Uh,
are like 10 feet. They're
16
insane.
feet.
and we'll talk about that too,
We
because
gotta
we
talk
have
to
another
Dave about
story.
that. That's
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that. But I took the stairs, and so I was like, and
I
so we
leaped off
found each
it.
other, and then I just started, hugging players and
All
high
right.
fiving, and it was one of those moments that obviously you want to win more games, and there was still a lot of season to be played
Yeah.
at that point, but it almost felt again, and Coach Dorn, everyone remembers the red Solo cup with the cigar, talking to the ACC huddle folks, but it was just a big weight lifted off your shoulders. Like, we did this. Like, that
Right.
was, that was your class's moment, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but no, that was so one of the greatest moments. Go ahead, Michael.
It definitely felt like a program changing win. Like, it wasn't just like a random upset. Like, I remember back in like I think it was the 2012, the one where FSU was top 5 and we beat them. And I mean, we weren't really that good that year. But that just kind of felt like a random upset. But that game last year against Clemson, that definitely felt like significant progress and a serious change where in the direction of the program there.
Yeah, I feel like, especially for that year too, it just showed us what we could do. And I felt like after that we were ranked, and like we were just beating up on some people, and we beat up on we beat La Tech, we beat we beat Boston College. After that, we lost to Miami. But like, I just felt like we could play with anybody. Like, and we did that year. Like, we played with everybody like that year, which was like, So
no, I mean, and we're gonna stop here and talk about that and some more on part 2. So, Wolfpack Nation, make sure you come back, because we're gonna talk about that infamous Carolina game. Actually, it's not infamous; it's famous. Like, let's talk. Well, it's infamous for me, and we'll definitely talk about that. But EMEKA, go ahead and give us your socials real quick, and we'll definitely bring them up in part 2, and we'll post them in the description. But where can everyone find you? And then we'll talk about your special project that you've been doing also.
Okay. So my Instagram is EMEKA10, and then my Twitter is just my first and my last name, EMEKA EMEZIE.
Yep.
And yeah.
And then we'll tease it. He's got another one, and we'll talk about that Twitter account in part 2. So you better come back, Wolfpack Nation. But make sure, if you haven't already done so, go ahead and give us a like at Tuffy Talk. Make sure you subscribe, hit that bell, so you can get all the great contents. You can see more interviews with great folks, great Pack alumni like EMEKA, and but yeah, just do it. I mean, what are you waiting for? So, Wolfpack Nation, we'll see you for part 2.